Well, I didn't think I'd have to talk about this so soon after we had first reported on it, but I had a feeling that Splash's little what is it? Buttgate? Is it Hannagate? I don't know what the term for it is, but when I heard that Disney had censored Splash, I sensed it was not the only thing on the service that had been altered. And I was afraid that at some point it would start impacting their animated classics, and it turns out we are actually that has come to pass. We didn't even have to wait for that one. No, Disney is now actually censoring their animated classic. But before we start, hey everyone, this is Kevin, your failed journalist. Welcome to the channel. Definitely glad you're here. We're going to be updating probably quite a bit on this situation. So if you want to follow this situation, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell. So anyway, I posted that video yesterday where, again, brief recap. Splash is a 1984 comedy starring Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah, directed by Ron Howard. It was created for the Touchstone Pictures label, which was brand new at the time, by then CEO Ron Miller, so that Disney could make un-Disney-like features that would have un-Disney-like characteristics. Splash was the first of those movies. The movie received a PG rating for some brief nudity and some mild language. Well, it's kind of ironic, of course, that this movie would wind up on Disney Plus, and Disney Plus actually incorrectly showed it as a PG-13 movie, but I figure, okay, well, whatever, I guess it's too tame to be of a concern anymore, but nope, they had actually ended up covering up Daryl Hannah's naked butt twice in the movie, which I can't believe I'm now making two videos where I talk about Daryl Hannah's, booty, but thus is the age of the internet in the day where you can't leave the house. And I said on the video at the time, this is going to be a big problem. If we let it happen now, it's soon they're going to start editing their animated films and their shorts and everything like, well, apparently that already happened. Because it was discovered a week ago that Lilo and Stitch has been censored for the service. Now, what exactly was censored? Well, it's really silly when you stop and think about it. Okay, look, here's this dishwasher scene. This was a pretty innocent scene that I considered. Lilo's hiding in the dishwasher, and Nani puts a blanket on the ground and shuts the door with her foot, and when Lilo comes out onto the blanket, she picks her up and hoists her over. A very simple scene. Well, the dryer is no longer there. Now it's, I don't know, I guess it's just a wooden table, and there's a pizza box there that Lilo is hiding behind because, Lord knows that it's not difficult to get past the pizza box. Now, the reason this was done, more than likely, is because they didn't want kids imitating this scene and putting themselves in a dryer that might not open from the inside. And fair's fair. That's kids imitating cartoons has always been a problem. I mean, unfortunately, as much as we all love Superman, when Superman was at the height of his popularity in the 50s, there were kids that would jump off buildings hoping to fly like Superman. So I understand that there's always a concern for things like that. However, I do want to point out, Lilo and Stitch is rated PG. So you could make the argument that you should be previewing it with your kids first, and if you think they're going to imitate a scene like that, you shouldn't let your kids watch it. For that matter, there are scenes of guns and Stitch biting people and slobbering all over them, like, blah. Are you going to, remove that as well? It seems really strange to do that. And again, on principle, I find movies to be art. I think they're important to preserve the way that they were made. Now, some people might point out, they actually changed Lilo and Stitch before it even came to theaters. They had this whole sequence at the end that ended up being changed because of 9/11. I'm not talking about that. I mean, here's the thing. If you decide you want to change something before the movie even comes out, that's fine. And that was an excruciating circumstance where it's creatively, they didn't want to upset people because the movie was supposed to make people laugh, so they found a different way to do it. And while, the original climax was a lot better, I'll give you that, it's a completely different circumstance. This is something that's finished, it's out the door, we've been watching it this way for years, and now they're changing all all of a sudden. And again, if you don't own that Blu-ray or DVD, or even the VHS at this point, then this scene will forever be changed, and it's just stupid looking. It's extremely stupid looking. And, you know, this has actually started like a bigger conversation about, how this is a bigger problem. Now, I like this article by The Verge by Julia Alexander, because this is pretty much what people like me who like my physical media are concerned about. We are afraid of everything going all streaming, all digital, because things can be changed and removed. And look, as they point out down here, first of all, they didn't, remove Hulk's naked butt in Thor Ragnarok, but Daryl Hannah had to be. They questioned if the nudity was the issue, why not bring Splash to Hulu? That's a good question. And then they highlight other things, like there is a new version of Star Wars A New Hope that appeared on Disney Plus that was made by George Lucas prior to the Disney acquisition, although, altered Star Wars is a yearly frustration of mine. And this article also highlights some more stuff that has been altered. That Disney has instituted pre-roll messages that play before certain movies to inform viewers that scenes have been edited for specific reasons. The company removed the word F from movies like Adventures in Babysitting and Free Solo. Movies that I would not consider to be kids' movies by any stretch of the imagination should not be on Disney Plus. Heck, Free Solo just won an Oscar. You think the filmmakers who are making Free Solo thought one day, yeah, our movie's going to be on Disney Plus and they're going to remove words so that kids can watch? Why would they be thinking that? And they took out racial slurs that appeared in older titles like The Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin, which means so much for that disclaimer that some of these movies and shows and stuff are from another era and they have outdated cultural references or racial insensitivity. So much for that warning. And they edited material out of Empire of Dreams that Disney no longer found suitable. And then they highlight the Simpsons episode that was taken out. But as Slate's Isaac Butler writes on the issue, as physical media gives way to streaming, large corporations have greater and greater control over what we can and cannot see. This gives them unprecedented power to disappear bothersome work. Whether we agree with a particular instance of memory holding or not, this practice is deeply troubling, its history even more so. And of course, it's brought up again, is that the Tom and Jerry cartoons were released on DVD by Warner and were made digitally on iTunes and Amazon. Warner Brothers didn't erase or edit the show. Instead, the company decided to give a critical examination. History can't be erased, but people can learn from it. Now then, if you want to know what's been changed on Disney Plus, this article is a good place to start, although I'm going to email Samuel Spencer because unfortunately it's incomplete and I actually think this list might need to be updated more and more. Heck, I might even make my own list, who knows. But here's the content that's been censored. Splash, obviously, they've blurred some bare butts and they added some cat hair. Toy Story 2. The Disney Plus version of Toy Story 2 follows the version that came to Blu-ray in July 2019. Granted, I bought my Blu-ray 3D in 2008 or 9, something like that, so I'm good. But in this edited version, a casting couch joke has been removed in the blooper scene. Now, it should also be noted that when I redeemed the digital copy of Toy Story 2, it was also over 10 years ago. The casting couch was clearly there, but because it's digital, well, guess what? The joke is no longer there. So if I had just bought it digitally, then I would have found out years later that the movie that I thought I had bought had been changed in some way. Adventures in Babysitting, the Disney Plus version removes the famous line, "Don't F with the babysitter," to "Don't fool with the babysitter," while another scene changes the word homo for the word weirdo. Right. So, Free Solo, the streaming version replaces a line where climber Alex Honnold calls something effed up with messed up. They also removed the word GD from the National Geographic documentary. This is not a kid's movie. I don't even know why they're doing that. The Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin. One Reddit user noted that the 1967 Roddy McDowall Western has had racial slurs removed from its streaming cut. Santa's Workshop. Now, here's the interesting thing. I watched Santa's Workshop on Disney+, so this must have changed fairly recently. However, they have removed stereotypical black dolls from the short, although some stereotypical Asian dolls have been kept in, so, you know, and this is where it starts getting complicated, because, like, okay, someone might say, like, oh yeah, like, remove those dolls, but then it's like, well, what about those dolls? It's like, okay, well, remove them. Then someone's going to come along and say, what about those? And before you know it, everyone's offended. Lilo and Stitch we just went over. Now, Hannah Montana, this is an interesting one. But in a change thought to come from a prior digital edition of the Miley Cyrus comedy, a character in Season 2, Episode 26, has had their character name changed from Isis to Ice. That's interesting. They didn't realize what that name would mean when they filmed it. However, seen from the Shia LaBeouf comedy Even Stevens, showing a character using Isis as an alias has been kept in. Gravity Falls. In an edit that mystified even the show's creator, a symbol from Grunkle Stan's Fez has been removed. We actually knew about this. The Simpsons, the Stark Raving Dad episode isn't there. The Rescuers and the Lion King. Now those are, you know, the whole, like, you know, they removed the naked woman from the Rescuers and they removed the SFX logo, which people thought was sex. And I will say one more thing, because there's at least one movie on here that's, well, first of all, The Empire Dreams is not listed here. But what's also not listed here is Saludos Amigos. When I first got Disney Plus, believe it or not, one of the first things I looked at, like, I was weird with Disney Plus. A lot of people watched The Mandalorian the first shows I watched were the DuckTales reboot and the Legend of the Three Caballeros. So I'm clearly doing Disney Plus wrong. However, one of the first things I checked on was Saludos Amigos to see if the censored version of Saludos Amigos was still there with, you know, because they edited Goofy smoking out of the movie. To my surprise, Goofy was smoking in the movie, so it was uncut, and I was very happy with that. However, I have since gone back to double check, and they have removed the smoking again, even though they have plenty of shorts and movies where they warn of tobacco use. I don't know. This is... I know, look, I know that right now the world is crazy right now, and this is probably not the biggest concern in the world, but keep in mind, it's just a small step, and I don't want a future where my Disney classic, or any classic film, is just edited on the whim of a corporation who wants to appease the soccer moms. I don't want that. What if, at one point, someone says, you upset my child at the end of Up because of the death scene? Maybe we should just remove the death scene so that kids aren't disturbed as much. I don't like it. What if My Neighbor Totoro was on this platform? Even with the no cuts policy, My Neighbor Totoro has a bathroom sequence, and this is a very innocent scene. The movie was rated G twice by the MPAA as recently as 2004, I believe. So no one finds the scene offensive, but what if one person does? Is Disney going to put on a bathing suit on the main character? I don't know. I don't know. And, you know, I even kind of wonder what would happen next. Like, because these Disney movies are getting fairly old. Dumbo has some problematic elements. It does. Peter Pan has problematic elements. It absolutely does. Disney's remaking all of their anime movies into live-action movies. What if we get to the point where Disney's like, okay, these are our current movies. Let's get rid of those archaic animated films that cause us so much trouble because they have outdated references and nobody wants to watch a cartoon anyway. What if we even get to that point? I don't want that future. I don't want that future. This is why you should keep your physical media. This is why you should support physical media when you can. Now, some people might ask, well, what if they censored stuff on the physical media back then? What was your option? Well, here's the thing. If they censored physical media back then, guess what? You did not buy the disc. You let them know why you weren't buying the disc, and soon, faced with enough lost sales, they would release it uncut. On a streaming service, that's a lot harder to accomplish because what are you going to do? Are you going to cancel your entire service because a few things have been changed? You don't want to watch You'll be back for The Mandalorian Season 2. You will. And that's... So they've got you. And now they can start making changes, and considering it in some cases it's the only way. I remember being on a panel, and we'll use this and then we'll wrap it up, Where I went to San Diego Comic-Con, it was CMX Comics, which was a DC Comics imprint for manga. And they picked up a series called Tango Tenge, which was a NC-17 rated comic book that they edited to a PG-13. It was not great. And it wasn't good even uncut, but, that heavy level of censoring really annoyed everyone. And immediately when the Q&A started, the questions about the censorship arise, and one of the guys answered, well, we have the rights to the series, you have to buy it from us, what's your alternative? Well, the alternative obviously is to steal it, because people would rather steal than pay for censored work. But in an all-digital future, when it gets more and more controlled, let's say Disney decides to change something, what are you going to do? Nothing. You can't. It's hard to threaten them with boycotting of the sales. They can just, even if they do stuff uncut one day, it can be cut the next day. What are you going to do? It's something that you have to think about. But anyway, that's where we're going to leave it. What do you think about this? I'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.